Many people grew up on RPGs, myself included. However, not many people like RPGs, and even more for JRPGs. May it be for the art style, the long drawn-out story, the gameplay, or even the price tag. But one RPG in particular that I highly recommend is NieR Automata. Now before I continue with this review, I would like to elaborate on why I'm making a review on a game released in 2017, when there's already a multitude of better reviews in almost every corner of the internet. Well, purely because I love this game, and with the remake of NieR Replicant due to be released, I just thought it would be a good idea to pop in the game and get my yearly dose of depression. And also, since this is my very first review, please be gentle. Here's a bottle of lube for when you decide to fuck me. Now, without further ado, released in 2017, NieR Automata is an action, hack-and-slash, top-down, side-scroller, run-and-gun shooter, adventure, RPG. Also, there's fishing in the game. 10 out of fucking 10. NieR Automata is a sequel to NieR, which is also a spin-off to Drakengard. And like NieR, you don't have to play the previous games to really know what NieR Automata is about. That's what Wikipedia and that weeb friend that won't shut up about the game are for. In this case, me. For the story of NieR Automata, I don't want to get too deep into the lore of the game, so here's a TLDR. Earth had humans. Humans were hit with a deadly virus that decimated the population. Aliens decided to pay a visit and sent a lot of robot high fives. RPG! Humans, sick of this Earth shit, decided to go to the moon. When on the moon, they made androids to fight the alien machines and attempt to reclaim Earth, because that's where all their porn is kept. And thus, we've arrived at the events of NieR Automata. In NieR Automata, you play the world's thickest pencil, 2B, accompanied by 9S, the world's goodest boy, as they traverse the desolate remains of Earth for mechanical pest control and to discover the sick shit hidden in humanity's browser history. The story of NieR Automata is depressing, but does, as the kids say, hit different. It's the main reason I fell in love with the game. Its dark and moody themes have a fictional base, but an unbelievably real undertone. The story tricks you into believing it's a fantasy action game with cute anime girls with voluptuous thighs. But in truth, it's a grim narrative-driven sci-fi fantasy filled with nihilistic themes. With cute anime girls with voluptuous thighs. Compared to other RPG titles, the map in NieR Automata is relatively small, but beautiful, well-written, and is a dump truck of content. However, the few notable places I want to highlight are the Resistance Camp, the Bunker, Pascals Village, and the abandoned theme park, as these are the places that are mainly populated by life forms that don't want to see your head mounted on a wall. The Resistance Camp is a temporary base of operations for the androids on Earth, where the player can buy and sell items, upgrade equipment, and receive missions. Pretty bare-bones stuff, but it's not what you can do here, it's what's inside. The NPCs here are an interesting bunch. They themselves are androids sent to reclaim Earth, but after a few years of war, they seem to be just getting by day in and day out. Lost all hope of ever seeing the end of their efforts and just living to survive. Reminds me of high school. Another base the player has access to is the Bunker. Located in the void of space between the moon and Earth, this is where the androids huddle up for pep talks and listen to Daddy Humanity's words of motivation. The monochromatic color scheme of the Bunker is almost indicative of the monotonous nature of the androids,
of which their purpose, while they are operational, is to serve humanity and perk the Earth of the machines. And it is shown by the bland black and white color palette of the Bunker. Nothing stands out, nothing is saturated, everything is pale and empty, just like what they were intended to be. It's almost like although Earth is barren and dead, it still has more life than the Bunker.
But I'm not some color scientist, I have no idea what I'm talking about. The machines, however, have a different approach to the way they live their menial mechanical lives. Compared to the hungry android thighs hunting machines in the wild, the machines in Pascal's Village and the abandoned theme park have gone AWOL and have decided to live a life of peace. If the Resistance Camp is the equivalent to high school and the Bunker is a minimalist wet dream, Pascal's Village and the theme park is still high school, but on drugs.
Smoke!
Still depressing, but with the use of hallucinogenic substances, everything is daijoubu.
Smoke!
There is no fighting if you don't see the fighting. Speaking of fighting, as NieR Automata is a hack-and-slash game, there's really not much to say about the combat. You see the enemy, you slash. You see a faraway enemy, you shoot. You see the enemy is about to hit you with that. You evade it like you evade all your responsibilities.
Be gone, fuck!
But there are some parts of the combat that I do want to touch on. Every RPG game has some form of character improvement system. You want to be good at using the bow and arrow? You invest your skill points in archery. You want to be a big strong boy, you invest your skill points in strength. Instead of having a branching skill tree, NieR Automata has plug-in chips, items that the player can freely modify their characters with whichever skill, whenever, and however. Think of them like superpowered clothing. Don't like the outfit you currently have on now? Just get a wardrobe change and every stranger in the street will just drop dead. In summary, NieR Automata's combat is a culmination of slashing, hacking, shooting, hacking, and dodging. Did I say hacking twice? Well, that was intentional. A majority of the combat is slashing and hacking, but once you get to the second playthrough, where you control 9S, there's a lot of slashing, but also a fair bit of hacking. Hacking is 9S's primary source of damage, because he is a weak boy that lacks the necessary nutrition for combat. Hacking an enemy will take the player into a retro-esque top-down arcade-like shooter, where the player's biggest enemy is geometry. It's your math homework coming back for revenge. When I heard that hacking was in the game, my first thought was... But instead, I'm treated to a mathematical bullet hell. I didn't initially like the hacking minigame, but after being able to nuke an enemy just from a phishing email, I adopted it into my commandments of machine slaughter, welcoming it with spread open legs. Also, whenever you hack an enemy, you're treated to 8-bit versions of the soundtrack that sound, as the kids say, fire. Speaking of music, ever since the original NieR, the languages used for the music were not a singular language, but an orgy of several. Aptly named Chaos, as it embodies the chaotic nature of the world, the story, the characters, and my heart after playing this game. The balance between creating a soundscape that is just as engaging as the visual elements, and also not drowning said visual elements entirely, is immensely difficult. But Keiichi Okabe and the Monaka team have managed to do just that. The music composition in NieR is nothing short of amazing. A masterpiece, if I dare say, because alone, even with its almost gibberish alien elvish language, it still manages to tell a story. And together with the visuals, it enhances the emotions being displayed on screen to the point that it made me feel things I wasn't fully prepared to feel. It touched me in my no-no place. As we're reaching the end of this review, I want to touch on the endings of NieR Automata. Yes, plural, not singular. There are actually 26 endings in NieR Automata, one for each letter of the fucking alphabet. Some of these include eating sushi, committing genocide, not getting health insurance, ripping out your own brain, and many, many more. Out of said 26 endings, only 5 are what are considered to be true endings. I'm not going to spoil them for you, but a word of caution, have your emotional support body pillow on standby. You will get fucked, as did I. On a more serious note, overall there is a large chunk of the game that I intentionally left out of this review, and that is because, firstly, I would want you to play it and get the full experience. And secondly, the whole purpose of this review isn't a deep dive into the game. It's merely to highlight some of the parts of the game that really made its impression on me. Granted, I could go into a full hour-long tirade about the story, character designs, music compositions, or the aerodynamics of an android bosom, but no matter how much I wrote down, it didn't seem to give it the justice it deserves. So I wrote only about the things that are unique about the game and parts of the game that I loved, while still trying to keep it somewhat entertaining. NieR Automata is a great game. Even after years since its release, it still manages to catch me nearly tearing up in important parts of the story. The music is compelling and downright beautiful. The gameplay, as though nothing new, still manages to keep things fresh with a few interesting gimmicks. The characters, though some might have the personality of cardboard, grew into something that actually made me feel for the characters. And lastly, the story is thought-provoking and depressing as fuck, but it does have its own light beyond the dark, melancholic, psychological tunnel. Existentialism, depression, and nihilism are all present and very tangible. Regardless of all of this, it still gives a small glimpse of hope. Many games have the player save the town, save the city, or even save the world. But NieR Automata wants you to save yourself. 10 out of 10 would cry again.